Hello and welcome to PM Express. And I know it's been a long while, and I'm sure you missed me just as much as I have missed you. Well, I'm glad to be back. Indeed, folks, this is the only land bequeathed us by our forebears, and indeed it is our prized possession which we have to hold dearly. And as the Frimamu says, that if this nation is going to be of anything, it's up to you and I to add or build upon whatever it is that we inherited, so that the generations after us would get a better place to survive. And when we go and meet our ancestors, we can at least boast that whatever it is that you left us, we made it better before departing. But as it stands now, can we say that? And I say all this thing because the Ministry of Communication is in the news again. Once upon a time, it was Kelny GVG, was blown out of proportion, and there was so much misunderstanding and understanding and misunderstanding. And here we are now with StarTimes. We're going to try and get the nitty-gritty of it. Is that the best we could do? Assuming Ghana was your private company, would you have taken that decision? Some are saying that the advantage is skewed towards the Chinese, and the disadvantage once again brought back home to Ghana. Can Ghana really expand with this spectrum or digital terrestrial platform? Can Ghana handle it? Or the Chinese are the best place to handle it? Is it really a matter of fact that you are poor and somebody's giving you money and is telling you that, well, if I am giving you the money, my company is going to do this job? What is the best solution on the table? Because indeed, as usual, the country is split. Those in the majority see nothing wrong about it. Those in the minority, see everything wrong about it. So we're going to find out, if you're just a Ghanaian, what is this deal mean to you? My name is Nana Sakwa IV, the chief of the Little Republic of Akomu Edumasa. And when I come back, I am talking to two fine ladies and gentlemen who understand a thing or two about this saga going on. Do not go away. Well, thank you very much for staying, and sat right next to me is Gloria Hiaji. Yeah, Gloria Hiaji, who is the Executive Secretary of GIBA. Gloria, you're welcome.
Thank you.
And this is our, television palace. So since this is your first time, we charge you Ambantam. St. George's paid his long time ago. So you're welcome anyway.
Thank you.
and then we have Jatta himself, Sam George, Honorable Member of Parliament for Ningo Pram Pram, and also member of the Communication Committee in Parliament, doing exactly what he does best, fighting on the issue of communication, trying to get clarification, and who can fault him for that. Sam, you're welcome.
Thank you so much, Nana.
So Sam, let me start with you. Here we are, as rich as we may seem, we are cash broke. We may be resources rich, everything rich, but we are cash broke. Once upon a time, there was this analog. We need to now move into this terrestrial spectrum, which costs money. And the Chinese is giving you money, and he said, look, George, look, if I give you money, Mr. Low has to come and do the platform. What do you do? He who pays the piper is calling the tune. Is that not a simple fact?
Well, Nana, very good evening to yourself and to Gloria and to our viewers. That's not the situation. That was our situation sometime in 2011, 2012. As we speak today, the situation is not one where we need to do a migration and we don't have a platform. Thanks to Ghanaian ingenuity, we were able to build a platform at no cost from external funding. All the cost was borne locally. And when I say it's ingenuity, a Ghanaian company came to the ministry, put in a bid and said, look, you can actually sell spectrum, which is going to become free anyway when you do the migration. And on the basis of that spectrum, pay for the migration. So you actually don't need to take a loan. So basically what that Ghanaian firm did for us was to save us 36 million US dollars. 36 million US dollars, because what we were going to do with the Chinese was to cost us 95.9 million, almost 96 million US dollars, and there was an interest component. Because it was a loan, there was an interest of 22 million over a 20-year period on that facility. So in total you're going to be paying the 96 million and the 22 million, 118 million. Now, by simply doing a new international competitive bid and a Ghanaian company winning and us selling our own spectrum, the cost of the project dropped to 84 million or 85 million thereabout until we started doing variations. But those variations would have happened anyway if we were doing the Chinese project, because at the end of the day, as the project develops, there are variations. So automatically he saved 36 million Ghana cedis, US dollars, sorry. Now, do we need to go back to China to take a loan? I think that is the big question that industry players, including Giba, are asking, that the ministry has failed to answer. In fact, I think on Saturday, the Minister for Communications, Madam Eslawusu, tried to hazard a response on Newsfile, where she said that the loan agreement was critical for government because not because government needed to expand the DTT infrastructure, but because government needed to unlock funding for Eastern Corridor roads and other loans that they wanted to take from China. Now, if I was in government, what I would be asking myself, if I was in government and I was patriotic, if I loved Ghana, what I would ask myself is, why is China ready to give me in excess of $3 billion worth of loans, but is hinging all of those loans on a $95 million facility, which is less than 1/300th of the loan that they are going to be giving to me? Now, why would I, as a government, be fighting to unlock a loan, the 1.5 billion that will come from China for the Eastern Corridor Road? Yes, Ghana may benefit from it because our roads will get built, but don't forget that that money is not coming to Ghana into Ghanaian hands. When China gives you a loan, it goes to a Chinese contractor. So when the government says that they are fighting for that loan to be released, they are fighting for that loan to be released to a Chinese company to come and build the road. Now, I've always said it's a matter of priority. I've been in government.
That's been the norm.
No, Nana.
That's been the norm.
Nana, I have been in government, and I'll give you 2 examples of when a government, in fact 3 examples of when a government is willing to find a way. When there's a will, political will, there's always a way. Let me show you. The Gang of 4 roads, we didn't have funding for them. They were stuck for several years. When President Mills came into office and he wanted to make that a legacy of his, we found funds locally from within government to complete the Gang of 4 roads. Almost 500 million Ghana cedis to complete those roads. When, again, President Mills was saddled with the single spine salary structure, that is a recurring expenditure. It increased our wage bill overnight from 2 billion to 10 billion. 8 billion Ghana cedis. Now, 8 billion Ghana cedis, even if you use today's current exchange rate, is 1.5 billion US dollars. Every month or every year, that was our increase in wage bill. Government did not go and borrow to pay it. We found the money. This current government, President Akufo-Addo, one of his flagships, which he campaigned on for 3 elections, was free SHS. The free SHS is costing this, in the last year, cost this government 1.3 billion Ghana cedis. Just one stream. Did they borrow for it? They found the money here in Ghana for it.
But there's a limit to how much you can find within.
Nana, we are going to rebase the economy. The finance, one of the reasons Parliament has been recalled is the rebasing of the economy. When you rebase the economy, it's going to create space, fiscal space, because now the debt to GDP ratio is going to drop, and government is going to go jump on the market and immediately start borrowing. You understand me? So, but when you rebase the economy, it's going to create some fiscal space. If government really wants to prioritize the Eastern Corridor roads, if it is really a matter of priority, the lazy man's approach is to just borrow. We're told not to borrow by this government. So why are you going to borrow 1.5 billion. And if you want to borrow your 1.5 billion, go and borrow your 1.5 billion. There is no need to saddle us with an additional $118 million in loans over a project we don't need. Because the DTT platform, you don't need to expand it at this point in time. Because, Nana, you see, you need to ask yourself, today, in the communication space, and today the Parliamentary Select Committee met, one of the issues I raised before the committee as a matter of urgent concern was the demonstrations that happened at the offices of a telco today, because the telco is having issues. Don't forget that we have a small market in this country. Our market is currently maximum 30 million. We issued so many licenses, 6 telecoms licenses. Today, how many license operators do you have? Apart from MTN, Airtel, and Vodafone, the rest are all gone. Where's Glo? Basically non-existent. Tigo and Airtel have had to merge. Where's Kasapa? Gone. So if you have a TV space today, and if you look at TV per capita across the world, I'll give you a typical example. South Africa. South Africa's TV industry is worth $1.2 billion in 2016. In 2016, the population of South Africa was 56 million people. South Africa has indigenous South African channels. They have 17.
Let me bring Gloria in here. Gloria,
but if you let me land, I'm doing a comparison. With 1.2 billion and a population of almost 60 million, they have 17 channels. In Ghana, your entire TV space, TV market, is 196 million, less than 1/10 of South Africa. You have a population that is half of South Africa's population, yet you have 48 TV stations. Why are you going with a plenty TV stations?
Let me ask Gloria. Gloria, do we need more TV stations? Because I know we, JoyNews is applying to get, one of these digital stations so that we can, free on air. But this is finished.
The argument from Geba is that there has to be a proper analysis carried out, okay, to know whether scientifically, economically, the nation can support extra TV channels. Because as we speak, there are a lot of radio stations that have been authorized, and some have had to shut down. Some media houses are suffering, laying off workers, shutting down because of the challenges in the economy. So until we really assess the strength of the economy, the market, to know that we can have more TV channels, I think we should tread cautiously.
Well, like I'm saying, JoyNews, i.e. this channel, it's only on the box. And I remember, I think they applied for 3 digital channels, but we're only given 2. So we have, I think, Adom and Prime on the digital channel, but JoyNews is stuck in the box, and JoyNews would want to go digital. So in that case, what do we do?
No, let me come in. If you take, like you're saying, if you do a proper analysis of what you have today, our laws prohibit religious entities and political entities from running TV stations. Take a cursory look at the number of digital TV stations that are free to air that you have. Many of them are solely engaged in religious broadcast. I am not against religious broadcast. I am a Christian. I have no problem with that.
But the laws
are the laws, except we amend our laws. But you've basically front-loaded a lot of religious content. And then you are saying that you have applied for what is not religious broadcast, which conforms to the law, but you can't get in a license. Again, look at some of the free-to-air TV stations. During prime time, what do they show? They show money doubling and magic. So you want to ask yourself, is that the kind of content we want on our TV stations? Some of the TV stations that have free-to-air licenses that are digital today, Nana, check their content and see. Between 80 to 90% of their content is foreign telenovelas and movies. So why are we sustaining a system, or why are we running a broadcast space and giving licenses to people who don't have local content to project? And there are people who have local content who want to project local content, and they can't get access. So when you do a proper rationalization, you could actually do something with the 40 channels you have currently and take care of quality content and ensure that you have the right content on national TV.
Gloria, won't Giba now come back and say, oh, look, you're taking, creating unemployment and you're shutting down that station or shutting down this station? Because I remember that when Ursula was shutting down some radio stations because they hadn't paid some taxes.
Me and Amir didn't.
Yeah, it became a hoo-ha that, hey, you're shutting these stations. And he was saying, look, these are the laws and they have flouted it for so long. And we came back. So if we come back and say, well, this TV is doing money doubling or showing half-naked girls dancing and singing, or, at wrong hours, which I also detest, won't we turn around and say, oh, no, you're creating unemployment. Why should you give that to JoyNews when it was already for this guy who was showing money doubling?
When the radio issue started, before the proliferation of radio stations, I remember very well that Geba was talking against it, okay? Because we realized that radio stations were just being given, people were just being given authorizations to open radio stations in the excess, okay? Then now, because now there were so many radio stations in the market and they were barely being able to break even in their operations, then they started defaulting in payments. And that brought about the audit that took place. So when Geba went, I remember very well that Geba went to the NCA to try and find a solution around it. We were told that, well, this is what we had been advocating for all along. So they were just trying to, but we feel that in every situation, there's a best way around it, okay? Taking the harsh and stringent routes may not always solve the problem. There are always best practices. There are always alternate routes to arriving at a particular or a desired solution.
But is that not what we need, considering the level of indiscipline that we have all been caught up in? Don't we need that stringent rule to start, charting the right course?
Well, to an extent, we do need the stringent rule. But like I said, there are various ways of killing the cat. Okay, so taking a, I don't know what other word to use, but being so strict in a way, being so firm in a particular direction without listening to other inputs from stakeholders can be a bit worrying, because then it means that the stakeholders are not regarded in any way. Okay, it is just one person's decision to carry out his or her.
Has Giba not complained about, the limitation of TV stations and that you needed more room for more, where people are applying that, listen, I need stations and you don't have any, so that the state would think that, listen, I need to expand?
No, to the best of my knowledge, when the digital migration process started, there was supposed to have been an agreement that the current FTAs in the system were going to be given extra channels, okay, before any other new applicants were given channels. So if Giba has talked about extra channels, that it is in that light that I know about. But however, we realized that new entrants were being given authorizations and the Giba members were not being given the extra channels that were supposed to have been agreed upon. Okay, so at this point, I really don't know where that conversation is going.
Nana, let me come in. And you see, for me, I'm a pragmatist, yeah? I believe that we must say it as it is. She may be constrained because she's Giba and she's speaking and she doesn't want to be seen as other independent broadcasters being affected or potential independent broadcasters. Me, I'm a stakeholder, I'm a technical person in this industry. Look, if you take the 40 channels today, GBC alone has 6 out of the 40. 6 out of the 40. What content is GBC putting out? Is it quality content that should sit on our DTT and block out Joy Prime, for example, or Joy TV, for example? You see, this is what, if you are a minister of communications and you want to really do the right thing, that's why I said you need to do an audit and a rationalization of the channels that are there. The issue with the TV, the radio licenses that we spoke about, that was the NCA not doing its job waking up one morning and deciding that they were going to charge penalties retrospectively. Our laws even frown on that. So going forward, if you want to do a rationalization, give all the people on the FTA channels, on the DTT platform now, give everybody 6 months. And say that in 6 months, you want to see 70 to 30% local to foreign content as a prerequisite for the renewal of your license. Giba may come and say, extend it, make it 1 year for them. Over a period of 1 year, many of the stations will still not be able to meet it. There are innovative ways of going around it, but it is consultative. Giba itself will do peer review. And you will get the best channels with quality content and support what the Ministry of Creative Arts, Tourism and Culture is speaking about, 70 to 30 on our TV stations. So there are ways of going about it. But Nana, you see, the question I ask myself now is, why are we where we are? This whole discussion has been going on for some weeks in quiet, and then for the past 1 week now on national TV and radio. It's simply because the ministry, led by the minister, and this one I'm going to put the buck stops with the minister, has taken a certain haughty approach that they are unanswerable to anybody, and that they call the shots, they will do what they want. You can make your noise, but they will go ahead and do what they want. Then don't call us stakeholders. Because if you call us stakeholders, it means that we must come together and have a discussion. But don't take decisions, and then even when we are asking you, based on where we are picking from the grapevine, we write to you and it takes you 6, 5, 4, 3 months to respond to our letter. And even when you respond to our letter, you don't respond to the issues we've asked you. You write back to us after almost 5 months telling us you have seen our letter. I mean, what kind of treatment is that? Now, I ask myself, why are we where we are? Because Nana, if I take this ruling, this court ruling, this whole decision to engage StarTimes would have been a non-starter by now. If this minister had decided to proceed along the lines that the previous government handed over to her. Why do I say so? StarTimes had a contract. They didn't execute. When they didn't execute, you had a new tender being done, and a Ghanaian company won. And this is information I have put out only yesterday. That people ask and say, but NDC people, and people are trying to politicize this. I don't want us to politicize it. NDC people, you awarded a contract to StarTimes, and now NDPP is bringing StarTimes back and you're fighting it. Let's put it on record. The NDC administration under Professor Mills did not award a contract to StarTimes. StarTimes has never won a contract for the DTT in Ghana. The 2012 contract was awarded to a Ghanaian company, which coincidentally has the name StarTimes, but the full name is StarTimes DTV Ghana Company Limited. It is not a subsidiary of StarTimes China. That company is owned by a Ghanaian media player called Mauli Hedo. Mauli Hedo of UMB Bank and formerly of TV3. I think they still hold shares in TV3. It is their company that won the initial tender for this DTT. And they sold their contract to StarTimes China. It took them 6 months to finalize agreements between themselves and StarTimes China. If it was a subsidiary of StarTimes China, it would have taken 6 months to do an assignment of a deed of a contract. You understand?
Incidentally, they had the same name?
Oh, Nana, MTN. When MTN was coming into Ghana, somebody had registered MTN at Registered Journal, so they had to buy it from the person. There are several international companies that people have registered similar names here in Ghana that have no legal relationship with the parent company. So that is not a strange thing. You understand me? Now, the issue here is when that contract was sold to them and they failed to perform their duties and it was terminated and a new bid was done, StarTimes was asked, StarTimes China, to take part in the bid. They refused. They don't like competition. Ask yourself, anybody who doesn't like competition has something fishy up their sleeves. Because when we did an international competitive bid, I've told you, it dropped the price by 36 million. When KNET started a contract, they went to court. They filed a case in the High Court. When they filed a case in the High Court, this is the ruling by Justice Kumsin. And the ruling is clear. The judge says that the government had the right to proceed And on page 7 of the judge's ruling, he actually awards cost of $50,000 against StarTimes. Now, this government is telling us, and here, I blame the minister.
Lance, we'll take a quick break.
The minister is telling us, and when we come back, I will now go to the international court. But let me end here. How do you think the judiciary in Ghana is going to feel when a judge, based on the face of law and evidence, has ruled against a foreign entity in the interest, for the benefit of the state, and then a government comes in and the government is saying that this judge erred in his ruling because they believe that StarTimes has a case? Do you know what is happening? Because when you say you are trying to settle the matter now with StarTimes and give them a $95 million contract, when a judge...
Oh, but that's a different contract. It's not. They're not bringing back the same contract. Let me take a quick break and come back. I mean, it's a different contract.
It's not.
Well, the first one was KNET. KNET won the contract. Yes. They've done their bit, and now they need to extend, and so they bring StarTimes back.
If you read the minister's letter to the Attorney General, she says that it is an amended scope of work of the original 11th April 2012 contract that she has signed.
Let me take a quick break and come back. And then with regards to stakeholders, I want to find out if, GIBA has been consulted with regards to if they need these extra channels and what was the decision on that stakeholders meeting. Don't go. Well, thank you very much for staying there. Certain shows that don't stop. She's a break just comes and goes. The show itself, it's in always full flight, and this is one of those shows. But let me come to Gloria. Gloria, I mean, the ministry is saying that as stakeholders, you have been consulted. You guys say we haven't been consulted enough. I mean, how much enough? I mean, consultation is consultation. I mean,
the last consultation that took place, and it took place in the Ministry of Communications office boardroom, was on the 12th of February. Since then, there have been no stakeholder consultations. Like the Honorable Judge said earlier, we've been hearing stories, we've been hearing rumors, and we've been writing to the ministry to seek clarification, expressing our concerns, but we haven't received any response. I can assure you that until the 5th of September, that GIBA made inputs into the draft DTT broadcasting policy that was part of the discussion on the 12th of February, until the 5th of September was when the ministry responded to a letter that was sent in February acknowledging receipt of GIBA's inputs into the draft policy and indicating that a meeting would be called. They would inform us when. Until she came out on air to say within 10 days, we had no idea when that meeting would take place. We were just waiting patiently to be invited for the meeting. So if the ministry is talking about stakeholder consultations having taken place, we don't know which stakeholder consultations they are referring to. All we know is that the last stakeholder consultation that was held was on the 12th of February 2018 at the Ministry of Communications.
Now what's GIBA's position now? Pause, let's research, let's give it to KNET, let's forget about StarTimes. I mean, what should this be the stakeholder meeting? What's the position that GIBA is bringing on board? Because since this rumor has been brewing, you should by now be able to have a position that you want to listen. Let's stick with the 40, or let's expand, but let's expand Ghana, or 50-50, half China, half Ghana. What's the position?
With the decision for Ghana to go digital went through a process. Okay, and as part of that process, stakeholders came together to take a decision. Recommendations were given on the best way forward. At the end of it, one of them was that the DTT would be chosen for Ghana. Okay, that's the digital terrestrial television would be chosen for Ghana. And it was agreed. And that's how come the infrastructure was put in place. The tender was even put out. The second tender, was put out with specifications that needed to be satisfied. KNET won and put up the infrastructure. We are being told that the infrastructure is 95% complete. To the best of our knowledge, what is really outstanding on the infrastructure is power to some sites. There are 42 sites spread all across the country. 20 of them we know have been connected to the electricity grid. The other 22 is what we know, or to the best of our knowledge, has not been connected. We have been told by the in recent days by the ministry that they have acquired equipment from ECG, from VRA, from NETCO to be able to connect the rest of the 22 sites that are left. Okay. As one of the roadmaps that were also set in place, there's supposed to be a board that's supposed to be put together by the stakeholders. So that the constitution of the board is made up of stakeholders, but it is not, the recommendation was not for one person or an entity to set up the board, as in pick the various people who will be on the board to come in. It had to be a stakeholder consultation agreement sort of thing to get the board in place. Then the management structure is put in place and everything. The board, as we speak, is not in place. Any decision, any action, anything to be carried out on the infrastructure is supposed to be the purview of the board that is supposed to be put in place. So if that board is not put in place, or the board is not in place right now, who then is taking decisions on the infrastructure that the board should be taking? What assessment, what kind of assessment has been carried out? What technical assessment, what scientific assessment has been carried out on the infrastructure that has been built, that we are being told is 95% complete? What has been done on it for the decision to come out that it needs to be expanded? Because at least one of the things we hear is that it has to be expanded to take on regional channels. And as we speak, the NCA is giving out authorizations for regional TVs. Some are already test transmitting. In the Greater Accra region, we have two. One is transmitting in Ga-Dangbe. In the Ashanti region, there's one. Volta region, Northern region. At least those two are not yet ready, but the three are ready, they are test transmitting. So it means the infrastructure can do the regional TVs. We are talking about expansion. Our question still remains, what is the, as in for more TV channels, what is the economic basis for it? What is the scientific basis for it? Who is taking that decision to increase the number of channels? Are the stakeholders involved? Has NCA, which was part of the Digital Broadcasting Migration Committee, the Ghana Institute of Engineers, have they conducted an assessment of the infrastructure? Have they audited the infrastructure to know its current state, as in what it can do and what it cannot do? And then for the markets to also be assessed, to know whether truly the Ghanaian economy can support more TV stations.
George, I know the communication committee met on this. I mean, what was the outcome today?
Well, today we had a meeting. There are several issues that we discussed. I'd raised a number of issues even before this whole GIBA, before the graphic story on Monday. I had raised issues the previous week with on our platform, about 8 different issues in the industry that I thought the committee needed to meet on. So today, basically, that was our agenda. One way or the other, GIBA was one of the issues, GIBA and StarTimes, that I had raised 2 weeks ago, and so that also came up. The chairman indicated that he has extended an invitation to GIBA, the leadership of GIBA, for Thursday, and so the parliamentary committee will be meeting them on Thursday. And then the other issues that have to do with other issues in the telecom space were also looked at. And so basically it was a meeting of just the committee today in preparation for our meeting with GIBA and then the other stakeholders in the telecom sector that we would also be engaging in. So basically that's what it was. I've heard reportage that said the minister appeared before us today. That's incorrect. We have not engaged the minister. We have not, she's not indicated she wants to meet us. And as a committee, we have not yet invited her. We want to meet. GIBA has petitioned us. The GIBA officially sent a petition to the Parliamentary Select Committee. On the basis of that petition, we need to give them a hearing. So we'll hear them on Thursday. Post that, if there's a need for us to also invite the ministry to hear their side. I mean, even though the minister has spoken on air, GIBA has spoken on air, we want to engage them. And I'm sure subsequently we'll engage them if the ministry is so inclined, and we'll pick it up from there.
As we speak now, is there a contract between Ghana and StarTimes?
As far as I'm aware, yes, there is. And I believe that on Saturday, the minister alluded to the fact that there is a contract, because there's a letter dated 22nd June 2018 that I put out. That is a letter from the Minister of Communications to the Attorney General, which actually gives dates. It gives a date of 8th of March 2018, when the ministry secured cabinet approval for the expansion contract to be signed with StarTimes. On the 16th of March 2018, they secured the EPA permit for the expansion project. On the 29th of March, they signed a settlement agreement with StarTimes to discontinue the arbitration process on the back of these approvals. And then on the 5th of April 2018, the ministry signed a contract with StarTimes to reinstate the original contract, signed on 11th April 2012 with an amended scope. Now, this is signed by Mrs. Esla Owusu-Ekufo. On Saturday, while she was on the show, I put this letter out. She did not dispute it. What she has said is that this letter points to the fact that she signed a contract, but the contract needs a framework agreement, and that the framework agreement is non-existent. And so because the framework agreement is non-existent, the contract is nothing. I asked her, I said, you are a lawyer. You don't sign a document, a contract, and say that that contract has no value. StarTimes is not a small company. It's not an Apampim store. An international multinational will not sign a piece of paper with a government agency and you say there is no value to it. Now, if the minister is hiding behind a non-existent framework agreement, well, let me inform the minister that I am aware, thanks to another letter I put out, the letter from the Miss Wang Shua, who is a regional director for the China Exim Bank, Deputy Regional Director, Concessional Loan of the Exim Bank. The ministry applied to the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Communication, on the back of the signing of the contract, applied to the Ministry of Finance to activate the loan. It is only after the Ministry of Finance attempted to activate the loan that the Ministry of Finance was informed in this 11th May 2018 letter that the framework agreement expired on the 6th of April 2018. So this then means that if the framework agreement expired on the 6th of April 2018, you signed the contract on the 5th of April.
You didn't get there early enough.
But it then means that on the date you signed the contract, there was an active framework agreement, which you were aware of. So she cannot now hide behind the expiration and claim that the paper she signed is of no value. So I asked her, Madam, why did you sign a contract? Why are you in a hurry? If you know that there was no framework agreement, if truly you thought that there was no framework agreement, why would you be in a hurry to sign a document? Because, I mean, why would China send StarTimes come all the way from China and sign an agreement with you, a contract with you, when they know that there is no framework agreement? Does it make sense to anybody? This explanation that the ministry is giving, I mean, even if you tell a class 1 child this, he would ask you questions. Why would you sign and commit Ghana? And I asked her, what are the terms in the contract you have signed? Because the contract you have signed would make references to what are the obligations of government and what are the obligations of StarTimes. She was unable to tell us. All she's saying is that, yes, I've signed a contract, but that contract is null and void or of no value because there's no framework agreement. I mean, come on. This is a big scandal.
Take a quick break and come back and find out that now that the loan facility has expired, what next? Don't go. Soon time is just quickly running out. I think I'll give 1 minute each to my guest. I don't know how they'll manage it, but George, let me start with you. Just 1 minute just to wrap it up. Let's see.
For me, I am gobsmacked. I am pained as a Ghanaian, especially because of work that has been done by Ghanaian independent broadcasters like Multimedia. Mr. Kwesi Chum, look at the investment he's done. All of this investment is under threat and at risk. Chief Crystal and several other people. Pakwesi Ndum, First Digital, KNet that has built the multi-TV platform. They have never enjoyed any benefit from the state. Yet we are willing to throw everything at the Chinaman. A Chinaman who went to court, London court, International Commercial Court, and they said that Ghana did not have the right to terminate his contract. and that because we have terminated the contract, we should be slapped with a fine of $200 million. When Ghana challenged that in court, the ruling is here. It's a 39-page ruling. The judges have indicated, the International Commercial Court has indicated that Ghana had every right to terminate the contract, but we should only pay for any job that StarTimes had done. For 2 years, StarTimes claimed they imported machines. We've asked StarTimes, show us the machines and show us the invoices. For 2 years, they've been unable to do that. Yet we've gone to pull this case out, and we are dashing them 95 million. One chendi. It is sad.
Gloria.
Well,
Giba.
for Giba, we believe that the media has the role to protect. In fact, the media of any country is jealously guarded. Okay. And as part of our role, it's to hold governments accountable to the people. So whatever we'll do to ensure and to protect our democracy in this country as a republic, we will definitely do that. We want the right things to be done, and we will never stop until the right thing is done.
This looks like one of the conversations that has just begun, even though it's been in the airspace for about a week. It looks like it's just begun.
Oh, it's just beginning. It's a long marathon.
Let's see the contract and what it actually entails, how much we are losing and how much we're not. But I'm particularly interested in that. Now that the loan facility has expired, what next? I'm waiting for that chapter. It's going to be a nice chapter to read. But let me say happy birthday to Abna Krantima, Sisi Abna Krantima, who's 101 years today. Whoa. And that's Ansakwa, the third's wife. You know, I'm Ansakwa, the fourth. So Nana Ansakwa, the third's wife, she's 101 years old.
This is Abdul.
Yeah.
Serious grace.
Had a good chat with her. So Sisi Krantima, happy birthday to you. 101. Wow. That's a good age. That's a blessed age. But I always give you this number. It's 024 366 2001. 024 366 2001. That's Tanti's Fashions. They make my shirts for the show, and the fabric is by Woodin. So give them a call and get yourself a nice design. But to my lady and gentlemen, I say thank you very much for coming.
You're welcome.